In today's video, I'm doing a tutorial on how to build the lowest latency, highest performing AI voice assistant that kills voicemail. According to recent studies, on average, businesses miss 22% of calls they receive. This results in a massive revenue loss that goes directly to their competitors. Now, we've actually built this same assistant we're building in this video for one of our clients, and it's on track to save them over $250,000 in lost revenue just this year. Let's get into it. First, let's review the call flow structure. So before we get into details of the call flow structure, let's review the use case for this voice assistant. This voice assistant will be built for an HVAC company looking to have their overflow calls and off-hour calls handled. All right. Now, the objective for these calls will be to collect the reason for the call, collect customer information for follow-up, and then from there, be able to live call transfer to an emergency call, as well as just push the message on to the team so they can follow up promptly. All right. And the way they'll send the message to the team is through a text message. And we'll go over all of that, but let's focus on the call flow structure right now. So it starts with a caller making an inbound call. Okay. After that call is received, the voice assistant will start with a greeting message and a conversation will ensue. In this conversation, this is the point where the voice assistant is trying to extract the reason for the call. After they've extracted the reason for the call, they'll deem if it's an emergency call, and if it is, they'll live call transfer it to the team, and if it's not, they will continue on to collect more caller information. After they've collected the call information needed for follow-up, they'll ask the caller if they need any further assistance, and if not, they'll end the call. So for this call flow, it's pretty basic, it's pretty simple. All right, but the important things to think about when this call flow structure are the objectives of the call. And the main objective here are 2 points in the call. The call reason, which the voice assistant will try and extract in the conversational part here with the caller, and then as well as the caller information, because that's what's needed for the HVAC company to be able to follow up with this caller. So now that we've reviewed the call flow structure, let's continue on to the actual voice assistant infrastructure breakdown. So similar to the call flow structure, the voice assistant infrastructure all starts with the inbound call. It has a bunch of other components here. So let's go ahead and walk through what each of these components are and exactly what they do. So the first component here is the voice assistant platform. Now, we prefer to use Vapi, but this is where the voice assistant is built, as well as the number is linked to the voice assistant. All right, so that all happens on the voice assistant platform. You can do a bunch of other things, and we'll kind of go over that in more detail a little later on in this video. The other, or I should say the next aspect of this is the automation platform. All right, so this is where the call functions occur, whether it be sending a text message for our use case or updating the call dashboard with the end of call report. All right, and we're gonna use Zapier. That's who we like to use. They have a lot of different plugins that make it really easy to do all of these automations. For the VoIP system, all right, and just a quick note here, you can send text messages through Zapier, but we choose to use a VoIP system for specific constraints that Zapier has. And again, we'll go into more detail when we go through that automation that we'll create. But the VoIP system we're going to be using is OpenPhone. And what the system allows you to do is simply send out text messages. All right, so that's what we're going to use OpenPhone for. Now, for the call dashboard, we're going to keep it simple. You can create a custom UI and get as detailed as you'd like with this, but for this tutorial, we're going to just be sticking to Google Sheets. So what this infrastructure consists of is the voice assistant platform, the automation platform, the VoIP system, and the call dashboard. Okay, so the inbound call will be received from Vapi. After the call is ended, the end of call report will be sent to Zapier. Well, it will go through its automation. And in this automation, it will update the call dashboard with the end of call report, as well as send out a text message to the business so they can follow up with the caller. Now that we've gone over this voice assistant infrastructure, let's get to the fun stuff and start building this voice assistant. Okay, so Vapi is where we're going to be building our voice assistant. Again, this is where voice assistants are held. All right, as well as where you link the phone numbers to the voice assistant, but this is where all the magic goes down. When you create your Vapi account, before you can make assistants, make sure to update your billing. That's going to give you the ability to actually test these things out, call them, create them, do all of that. So if you need a link to Vapi, go ahead and click the link in the description and you can start building. So let's start with a new assistant here, and we will just start off with a blank template. Let's start from scratch here. The assistant's name, we'll just call it generic HVAC receptionist. Guys, excuse my spelling. I'm surprised I spelled receptionist right here. But there will be more errors throughout this video. So, okay, HVAC receptionist, that's gonna be the bot name. Now, let's go ahead and kind of start explaining some of what is going on here in Vapi. So, Vapi has a really cool dashboard. What this allows you to do is kind of see all the cost breakdown for the voice assistant as well as the latency. Okay, those are just the high level things. And then there's more details you can see in the actual call logs, but let's stick to what we're doing right here on this model tab. So when we're starting to build our voice assistant, the first thing we're going to look into here is the first message. And again, real quick, let's just review the use case. The use case we're building is of HVAC voice assistant that takes incoming calls, collects the call reason, collects caller information, and then pushes all that information via a text to the team for follow-up. So the first message, we just want to keep it light. We want to keep it straight to the point. So let's go ahead and say, hello, my name is Katie. So we'll have the voice assistant's name be Katie. How can I help you today? All right, so that's just a generic first message, but that'll work for us. Now it gets down to the nitty gritty, the prompt, or I guess you would say the system prompt. So the prompt is the engine, it's the brain of this voice assistant. When it comes to how this thing enacts or its performance, everything, when its functionalities occur, all of those things, that comes down to this system prompt. All right, so let's go ahead and create a prompt for this HVAC voice assistant. Now, to create this prompt, we're going to be using ChatGPT as well as a prompt template that I like to use when building prompts. Now, if you want access to this prompt template, you can go ahead and join our school community where you'll have access to all of our resources and all of the other templates that will be mentioned and used in this video. So link in the description if you want to access that. But let's get into it here. So we will copy this initial template here and head over to ChatGPT and start constructing our prompt. So we will start constructing this prompt by giving it context. So in this context field, we'll just put exactly what we want this voice assistant to do, everything from his persona to the rules we want it to have to the call flow structure, which we kind of already went through. Now, let's kind of reverse a little bit and really talk about this prompt engineering. When it comes to prompt engineering, I can do a video deep diving into this, so make sure to drop a comment if you want me to go a little bit deeper into this. But when you think of prompt engineering, again, it's the brain of the voice assistant. And when you think of a brain, this is a sphere. Don't think of it as a flat surface, all right? It's a sphere. So the best way to build the brain is to treat it like a sphere and to actually give it information based on different things you want it to do, but all within the mode of, I guess you'd say, a brain. So there's a personality aspect, there's a rules section, and there's a call flow section. The type of format we like to use to enable the voice assistant to proficiently be able to access this information is Markdown, and that's also what's going to be seen in the example that I'm going to put in this prompt, or the template that you just saw that you have access to in the school community. Let's go ahead and get into it here. So for context, we're going to say, I need to create a prompt for HVAC voice assistant that will take incoming calls, collect the reason for call, collect the caller's information, let's say full name, phone number, and address where the issue is occurring. So, okay. This assistant will also or let's say functionality to live call to live transfer calls, send text messages to the team for follow up, and date a call dashboard with call dashboard for review by the team. This voice assistant needs to accurately collect caller information and be able to articulate the reason for the call at a high school level. All right, so this is just a little bit of context for the bot to be able to understand how it needs to be able to guide the call. And then we're not really going to put much more into this. We just kind of want to build something somewhat quickly here. Anything else we need to review from this? Let's just review what we have right here. Calls, collects the reason for the call, collects the caller's information, address where issue is occurring. So we'll also use to transfer calls, blah, 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 blah. Perfect. And let's just start with that. For the instructions, I should say for the example, we'll go ahead and paste the template that we copied earlier, and then we'll go on to the instructions, and we will say actually, I kind of do this a little reverse here. Let's do this. Let's copy this. No instructions there. When it comes to the context, let's adjust this voice. Let's adjust this slightly. The exact voice assistant that will take incoming calls. Bam, bam. Okay, perfect. Instructions. I need to create a prompt for an exact voice assistant. I will take incoming calls. Boom, boom, boom. So we'll leave that. But now this is where we kind of use the setup that we have here. Context. Prompt. And use example guide and use the template and example as your guide. All right, we'll keep it simple. Let's keep it moving here. And what we're going to do is just copy the prompt that it gives us here, throw it over into Vapi, and make sure that this thing works properly. All right, so again, prompt engineering really controls your voice assistant. This is the most intricate part about building voice assistants, because this is where you really get to really have your hand and have a role in its personality again, and its overall functionalities. When it comes to these voice assistants, their accuracy ranges when it comes to responses from 60 to 95%. So prompt engineering is the process of continually testing these prompts to improve the outputs so they actually match what you're looking for this voice assistant to do. Now, if you're looking to actually do this in a way that's efficient, you need a model to actually, analyze these results. And that's something that we've actually created. But there's more details on that in potentially an upcoming video. All right, so now that it has finished creating this prompt for us, let's go ahead and maneuver it over to Vapi. And we're going to keep that same markdown format. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to we're going to paste this template here back into Vapi. And then now, copy and paste what we have here into Vapi as well. All right, so role. HVAC voice assistant for the company. Let's call it heating and plumbing. You're an HVAC. Let's adjust this. You're an expert. Receptionist for an HVAC company called Heating and Plumbing. All right, that's the role. For skills, let's go ahead and see what skills it provided. Skills: accurate data collection, polite and clear communication, ability to live transfer calls, and text message and update call dashboard. Perfect. So we'll copy these things. Accurate data collection, polite and clear communication, ability to live call transfer. All right, so let's just keep it to here. Accurate data collection, polite, clear communication. And then for the call objective, efficiently gather necessary information from callers, ensure smooth handoff to the HVAC team, and maintain clear and accurate records of all interactions. We're actually going to adjust this a little bit here. I'm moving a little fast, so definitely could have been better with the chat GPT use. But let's go ahead and just dive into this. Efficiently, objective, efficiently. Let's go and calls. Collect. Let's go. Extract the reason for the call. Then collect additional and caller's full name, phone number, and address where the issue is occurring. All right, so now that we have the persona locked in with the role, skill, objective, let's go ahead and move on to the rules for the voice assistant. So we're going to start with rule number 1. Let's quickly review the rules, but from what I saw, I don't think it gave us very good rules for this prompt. This is actually a good rule, so we'll paste that as rule number 1. See what else we got here. Live call transfer. Okay, let's do live call transfer. Let's just rewrite it all here. And we'll say all emergency calls. I'll transfer all emergency calls to the team. There. And let's see, maintain high level. Let's do it here. We do want this to be able to conversate at a high school level, because you don't know who's going to be the person making the call. It could be an elderly individual. It could be someone who's a little bit younger, green when it comes to HVAC issues. So you definitely want to give that type of information to the voice assistant so they can actually communicate properly, with these callers. Let's look if we need any other rules. And for these rules, just quickly go over what we need to do. Live call transfer. We don't want it to talk over the caller. All right, so let's move on to number 4 here. And going back, what did they have? Is there anything else that we want to have this do? Confirm caller information, live call transfer, maintain conversation. Let's just stick to those 3 things. All right. So what the voice assistant will do is confirm first the information is collected accurately, live call transfer in case of emergency, and maintain the conversational tone on a high school level. All right. Again, who knows who's going to be making these calls, so we should be able to communicate with everyone. Now let's go move on to the steps to follow for the voice assistant. Okay, we need a greeting, reason for the call, collect call information, confirm the information provided, provide next steps. All right, so we're going to adjust this quite a bit here, but let's go ahead and get into it. Steps for voice assistant. We're going to start 1, greeting and introduction. Come back here. Greeting and intro, hello. Nope, we'll put something else. Make sure to all those all right, so you need to greet the customer with the first message. And the steps to follow are really based on that call flow structure that we created in the beginning of the video. So if you need, you can kind of revert to that to just have a real understanding of exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to try and move somewhat fast so we can get through this a little bit quicker. But that would be 1. 2 would be collecting the caller's information or understanding the call reason. So greeting and introduction. And we'll actually squeeze this into this initial greeting and introduction section here. So listen. So the caller's reason for calling and ask questions if necessary to count all details that might be important for the team to know when following up. Okay, now let's move on to the second step in the call flow, which will be collecting caller information. Okay, so after the greeting and that initial conversation occurs, the voice assistant will need to collect the caller's information. Okay. All right, so step 1, the things that they'll need to collect are the full name, the phone number that they'd like to be called, or that they like to be called back on for the follow-up, and the address where the issue is occurring. So let's go ahead and plug this in. Collect the caller's information. Start with caller's first name. Make sure to repeat back for accuracy. All right, so what I just did right there is just a small improvement to this prompt. All right, so things like make sure to repeat the same, make sure to repeat the name back for further accuracy. This just make sure that the bot will repeat the name, and then if it's an error, that the caller can, fix that error before it gets to the team, so they don't follow up with incorrect information. The next, and we want to actually do that for all the bits of information, and we actually have that as a rule here as well, but we just want to double up when we're in the section where it's actually occurring, just so the voice assistant can be that much more accurate for this stage. Okay, so in the next piece of information is collect. Callers preferred phone number to be called back. And I'll say the same thing here. Make sure to repeat them. Instead of the name, we'll adjust that. Make sure to repeat the number back for accuracy. Oh, one thing here, we want it to repeat these things back slowly. And we'll put this in caps. Repeat name, letter, repeat name back slowly. And we'll go letter by letter, slowly. All right, next, collect caller's preferred phone number to call back. Make sure to repeat the number back accurately. And then we'll do the same thing again here. So we're actually taking quite a bit of detail to kind of just put some of these smaller things into this prompt, but this is all a part of the prompt engineering process. And this is still somewhat of a more basic prompt. We can really get into the weeds of this. So don't think that this is the furthest extent that a prompt can go. Number back digit by digit by digit slowly. All right, and the last bit of information we want before system to collect is collect the address the issue is occurring. And we'll do the same thing. Make sure to repeat the address back to accuracy, and then repeat address back word by word slowly. Okay, so that's the information collection stage, or I could say step. And then the last step for us as far as the call flow structure will be providing the next steps. So what that'll look like is next steps. Alerting caller to next steps. All right, so here we will say confirm that the caller needs no further assistance. Then let them know the team will follow up shortly with an estimated time of arrival. So the big key in this for why this voice assistant kills voicemail is it actually collects the reason and the issue that your customer is having, alerts in that you guys are going to follow up. So it pauses that aspect of them just immediately going to the next competitor if they just hit your voicemail, because they don't necessarily feel like they actually contacted you. With this voice assistant, it allows that customer to feel like their issue has been heard and understand that they will be contacted shortly for resolution. So, confirm the caller needs no further assistance, then let them know the team will follow up shortly with an estimated time of arrival. Okay, perfect. That will do it for this, for the prompt, I should say. And again, this basic prompt, and we'll just move on here. But let's go through the rest of creating this voice assistant. So on this model tab, it's all about the LLM. All right, so when it comes to the provider, there's multiple different providers you can select. We're going to go with OpenAI. And as far as the model goes, we're going to go with the 4o model. Okay. For knowledge base, this is something we're going to use for our use case. But if I did want specific bits of information about this HVAC company, whether it be their hours, their email, their address, and that to be accessible for the voice assistant mid-conversation, that's where I would actually go over here to Documents, upload a PDF of that information, and then a drop down would occur. And I would be able to actually link and select that document for the knowledge base for this voice assistant. All right. Moving on to temperature. So temperature is used to control the randomness of the outputs from the voice assistant. Okay, so we're going to keep that at the default 0.7. Max tokens controls, as you see here, the max number of tokens that the assistant is allowed to generate for each response. And we can keep that again at the default 250. I haven't ran into any issues with this up to this point at keeping it 250, so that's fine default as well. The text speech emotion. So this is a new thing with 4o, and this is something that we're going to want to enable because it adds context to the input for the voice assistant to respond with. So that is a huge new feature, and it's a great addition when it comes to this voice assistant, being able to accurately handle these calls. Let's continue on to the transcriber. So the really cool thing about Vapi that I kind of skipped over, it allows you to really mix and match and customize this voice assistant. Be able to pick the model that you want to use in the LLM, this transcriber, all right? And what a transcriber does is it handles all of the text-to-speech, speech-to-text aspects of this voice assistant. So as far as providers, we're going to go ahead and pick DeepGram. We'd like to choose DeepGram for performance. It's very dependable. Next, you pick the language. We're going to pick English. Okay, clearly that's the use case we're going to be servicing here. But if you did want to use another language, it does have the ability to even convert what we have here to another language. So understand that. And then as far as the model for the transcriber, there's multiple different models you can pick for DeepGram. And when it comes to these models, this is a really cool aspect about DeepGram. If you pick the medical model, it actually will be more accurate with describing medical terms. All right. Same thing with automotive, same thing with drive-through, so on and so forth. We're just going to pick Nova 2 just for this default use case and continue on. So, all right, the voice is the next thing that allows you to customize. And this is the actual voice that the voice assistant has. All right, we're going to go ahead and use Play HT. And again, this voice assistant is going to be the lowest latency, highest performing voice assistant. Play HT is what we like to use because it has really great latency, really great voices, and a really great balance of performance. For some of these other voice assistants, you actually might find some have a little bit lower latency, for instance, Azure. But the performance of the voice does not hold up to Play HT. Remember, you just don't want a voice agent that, hey, responds very quickly. You need to respond accurately and perform well with the entirety of the system. So that's what we're really focusing on here. So Play HT provides low latency plus high performing voices. Okay. And as for the voice for this provider, I've actually gone through and have a document you guys can access where I go through and grade all of the voices for this provider. Some of these don't actually work at the moment. It's kind of just a bug on the system that Vapi has. But the best voice that I like to start with is Melissa. She is the most dependable. She's the highest performing and the lowest latency when it comes to just random things that can happen in a conversation. So I like to start out with Melissa, and then if a client would like to have it customized, we can either, add a voice ID where we can add a voice manually from the voice library, or even they can clone their voice and we can input that as well. But I like to start with Melissa. Moving on to additional configurations. Background sound. I like to keep background sound off. I just think it's an extra type of thing that occurs on calls, and especially when we're just starting out with this first version of it that we need to just figure out the functionality and get it running. I like to turn all extra things that aren't necessary off. So background sound will be off. Input minimum characters. So this controls the minimum characters that the voice assistant will receive before responding. So we're going to put this at 5 just to try and minimize the amount that the voice assistant will cut a caller off. Punctuation. So punctuation, what this does is it increases the accuracy of the output from the voice assistant based on punctuation. This is really getting in the weeds, so we'll just leave that default. That's another optimization for the voice assistant. For filler injection enabled, what this does, it fills in things like and like in the output for the voice assistant, so it sounds more natural. Again, we're going to keep this off because it's not necessary. And then back channeling enabled, what this allows the voice assistant to do is actually interject things like and oh, okay, like in the conversation while you're speaking, to again increase how human-like the conversation is. Again, we're going to leave that enabled. For the emotion, I like to always choose female happy because Melissa is a female voice, and it's always great to have somebody happy and jovial on the other end of the phone. So we'll choose that. As far as the speed for the voice assistant, we can't actually go below 1, obviously for obvious reasons, but we'll just keep it at the 0.1 here. As far as the temperature, we'll leave it null for this example. Voice guidance. So what this does is it actually reduces, or increases the uniqueness of the voice that you're using. So if you want a voice that is more unique, as far as Melissa's version goes, you would increase this to however you'd want it to increase. The higher you go, the more unique it is. The lower you go, the more standardized it is. For us, we're going to keep it null. And then style guidance. This is the emotion that your voice assistant responds with. Again, we're just trying to keep it simple, so we're going to keep it null. And then for the text guidance, I actually like to keep this on the lower side, so we're going to keep it at 1.3 because this will allow the voice assistant to give a really fluent conversation and make up for some of those errors that might occur in the transcript. All right, let's move on to the functionalities tab. So in this functionalities tab, this is where you can do on-call functions like send a text message to the caller live on the call, or set an appointment, all right, or reserve a table at a restaurant. This is where all of those things are hooked up and sent off to the automation platform for it to actually enact these automations in what we're going to be using in Zapier, all right? For our use case, we don't need to integrate or to implement any custom functions, all right, because we're going to do all of those in the Zapier platform, so we'll leave this blank for now. Enable in-call function. So this just enables the voice assistant to be able to hang up the call on its own, so we'll go ahead and enable that. For the dial keypad, this allows voice agents to actually type in numbers for dial keypads when they're doing outbound type of calls. For our use cases, inbound, so we don't even need that. We'll keep it disabled. For the forwarding phone number, this is the phone number that you want input that you want the voice assistant to forward to. In our scenario, it's in an emergency call situation. So the phone number that I'll put here is just, I'm not going to let you guys get my phone number, but I'll just put a random one. All right. So we'll keep that. And then end call phrase. This is just a phrase that the voice assistant will say before it ends the call. Okay. Now, for the end call phrase, we just confine all that stuff to the prompt. And that's how we'll control the end call phrase. And you already saw how that's how we'll control when the call gets forwarded to this number. So the prompt is where all of these things will be initiated. Even when it comes to the custom functions, you still need to have in the prompt, all right, collect the dates and times for the appointment, and do all those specific things. How are there any additional people who might be joining the appointment? All those different aspects you do need to have in the prompt, similar to how we want the voice assistant to collect specific pieces of information from the caller for our HVAC use case. You still have to have that in the prompt for all of those other use cases in correlation to the call functions that you want this voice assistant to carry out. All right. So moving on to the advanced tab. For privacy, HIPAA compliance, we're going to keep this disabled because if you do enable this, it just turns off the call recordings. It doesn't record any call logs or transcripts. So if you do need your voice assistant to be HIPAA compliant, you can go ahead and enable that. But for our use case, we're going to keep it disabled. For recording enabled, we do want the voice assistant to record calls, so we will keep that enabled. For the pipeline configuration, silence timeout. All right, this is just how many seconds the voice assistant will wait on the call before it hangs up. We're going to keep that at the default 30 seconds. All right, for the response delay, we don't want this thing to delay a second when it comes to its responses. So we're going to keep that at 0, but it'll probably go automatically back to 0.1 because I believe that's the default. For the LLM request delay, it's the same thing. We want as low as possible. For number of words to interrupt the assistant, it has here 2 words, but we'll keep it at 1 because if the caller wants to say something, it should immediately stop talking. So that's what that controls. Maximum duration in seconds. This is where you actually control the duration of the call. I like to put it at 5 minutes, which is 300 seconds. And you do want to adjust this depending on your use case. For ours, the call should not be any longer than 5 minutes. So that's why we'll put it there. And if you don't change this, it could be an issue if someone calls in and they just hang on the line. If you don't have the silence timeout tuned in, it could cost you a couple extra bucks here. So just make sure to have that max duration keyed into your use case. For the server URL, this is where we're actually going to put the webhook URL that we're going to generate in Zapier. So this voice assistant can send that end of call report, including all those automations that we want this thing to do, like sending out the text message to the team and updating the call dashboard through Zapier. So once we create that webhook URL in Zapier, which we'll do in the next step of building this voice assistant, we'll come back here and paste that here so that at the end of the call, it can send out that end of call report with those messages. All right. So moving on for the client messages, this isn't something we have to worry about. It has no relation to our current use case. All right. But this is where you can control the messages that are sent to the client's SDKs. All right. Again, we don't need to worry about this for use case, so we'll just leave it as is. For the server messages, this is where you actually do need to pay attention. So there's multiple messages that can be sent out to this server URL. Now, if you wanted to do something for one of these custom functions you created in the Functions tab, you'd want to make sure that you enable function call, because that actually allows for, if the circumstances are met for that custom function, for that message to be sent to that webhook URL. In our case, would be sent straight to Zapier, where that automation would actually take place, whether it be, again, appointment booking, reserving a table at a restaurant, whatever it may be that you'd like that custom function to be. In our use case, we don't need any, so we're going to disable this, as well as all of the other message options to be sent other than end of call report. Because again, at the end of the call, we still want that report to be sent off so that Zapier can run the automations and update the call dashboard, as well as send out the text message to the team for follow-up. When it comes to the voicemail message, this is for outbound use cases where the voice assistant would hit someone's voicemail and then leaves whatever message you'd like. We're going to leave that default because we don't need that as an inbound voice assistant. And then lastly, end of call message. Similar to what we've seen before, we would actually, configure this in the prompt, so we'll leave this blank. All right. So after you've configured the voice assistant and you have it exactly how you'd like it, and we do at this point, we're going to go ahead and publish. Now, reviewing this voice assistant, when we're looking at this, again, our goal was to create the lowest latency, highest performing voice assistant. For the latency, we're looking at 1,000 milliseconds. All right. For the performance, we're using the latest, highest performing model in GPT-4o. So we are checking off both of those boxes. Now, there are additional optimizations in the prompt. All right. So the latency can increase if the prompt is not clear. So we make sure to decrease the odds of that occurring by using the markdown format, as well as formatting it in these 3 different sections: in the persona, the rules, and the call flow structure. We really just break it down into those 3 pools because those are the bare minimum basis of what this voice assistant needs to do the objective or achieve the objective for this use case. All right. Now, for the last component here, before we are actually able to really test this thing out and get the automations going in Zapier, is to link this voice assistant to an actual number. Now, in our case, we're going to be using a Vonage number, but you have the option to buy numbers for $2 a month through Vapi, or you can import a number. And there you can do it through Twilio or Vonage. We're choosing Vonage actually because we've actually found that Vonage has the lowest, again, we're looking for the lowest latency when it comes to the lines. So I already imported the Vonage number, but you can go ahead and do that yourself on your end. But with this number, after we've imported the number, we're going to want to link an assistant to this number. Okay, so the inbound assistant we're going to link is the one we just created in the HVAC receptionist. All right, so for each number you purchase, you actually can also link an outbound assistant to it as well. But for our use case, we're just worrying about the inbound, but just food for thought. For every number you purchase, you can link an inbound and an outbound voice assistant to it. So after you've linked the number to the voice assistant, you've made sure the voice assistant is good to go as far as its settings and it's published. At this point, we want to go over to Zapier to complete this voice assistant system in the automation workflow. Okay, so let's go ahead and navigate over to Zapier now and get going in that. So, okay, similar to Vapi, if you don't have an account for Zapier, go ahead and click the link in the description, and you can go ahead and create the account, fill out the billing. You actually have a free trial through Zapier, so you can try it out before you buy. But we are here and we are creating a Zap, and I've actually gone through the process of creating a new Zap, and this is where you start. So we're not going to worry about this top portion here. We're just going to go straight from this initial step. And in this first step, we're going to do what I kind of mentioned prior, which is create that webhook URL. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. Go webhook. All right. So we have a webhook here, and we want it to be a catch-up. We want the trigger. We'll just continue through that, and then it will create the webhook. We'll want to copy this webhook, and this is where we revert back to Vapi, go to find our assistant, go to the advanced tab in our assistant, and paste the webhook URL. Make sure to publish so it saves. And then we will go right back to Zapier. So now that our voice assistant is set up, and we now have set up the webhook for this voice assistant to send the end of call report to our automation platform Zapier, it's time to initially test this voice assistant. So this is going to be the first test of the voice assistant. And the reason we want to do this at this point as opposed to before is because we want to test that this webhook is receiving that end of call report. Also, we will load up that record, and we'll use that call record via that transcript to go through the following steps that we want to create to accomplish what we want to accomplish with this voice assistant system. Now, let's go ahead and make this call. But before we make that call, if you're looking to implement a voice assistant into your business, like the one we're building in this call or something similar, you can go ahead and schedule a discovery call with us by clicking the Calendly link in the description. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and call the HVAC receptionist and see what happens.
Hello, my name is Katie. How can I help you today?
Yeah, I have an issue with my air conditioning.
I'm sorry to hear that you're having issues with your air conditioning. Let's get some details so we can assist you better. First, can I have your first name, please?
Sure, yeah. My first name is Lenny Cowens.
Thank you, Lenny. Just to confirm, that's Lenny, right?
Yes, and my last name is Cowans.
Great. Next, could you please provide me with your preferred phone number? I'll repeat it back to ensure it's accurate.
Sure, it's...
Thank you. Just to confirm, your phone number is... Did I get that right?
Yep, you got that right.
Excellent. Lastly, could you please provide the address where the issue is occurring? I'll repeat it back to ensure accuracy.
Sure. So the address where the issue is occurring is 123 South Prospect Street, Tustin, California, 91869.
Thank you. Just to confirm, the address is 123 South Prospect Street, Tustin, California, 91869. Did I get that right?
You got that right.
Perfect, Lenny. Thank you for confirming all the information. Our team will follow up shortly with an estimated time of arrival. Is there anything else you need assistance with today?
No, that's it. Thanks. All right, so we just made that call, and let's go ahead and see if we received that. So let's go to the call report here. Wanted to test the trigger, find new records, and the record that we just did. Okay, how can I help you? You have an issue with conditioning. Boom, this is us. So this is, and I'll move this. So this is the call we just made. The webhook has received the end of call report, and now we're going to continue on with this call as the example of to confirm the next steps and enact all the other automations that we want this voice assistant to do. So let's go ahead and continue. So everything looks good there. It received the message. Now let's go ahead and continue. So when thinking about the automations we want to occur here, let's go ahead and go step by step. So first thing, or I guess you'd say the last thing you'd want this thing to do, is send out that text message to alert the team for follow-up with the caller. So let's go ahead and start there. So like I said, in the voice system infrastructure, we're going to be using OpenPhone for our VoIP system. And the reason why we're going to use OpenPhone as opposed to the text message system that Zapier provides is Zapier has restrictions on the characters that you can actually include in that text message sent out. So I believe their limit is 115 characters. And then there's also a limit on the number of messages you can send per hour. And I believe the limit there is 15 messages per hour. So because of those restrictions, we're going to go ahead and use OpenPhone, which is a VoIP system that does not have those restrictions. Now, you will have to make an OpenPhone account and go through that entire process, but it's definitely worth it for our specific use case. So after you have created that step, you'll have to go ahead and create the event that you'd like to take place. We want it to send a message, and then you have to log into your OpenPhone account and connect that here. And then next, we're going to go into the Actions tab. And then where is it going to be sent from? We want it to be sent from our OpenPhone number. And then where do we want this message to be sent to? Okay, so we're going to actually have this message sent to my phone number here. Now I'm going to blur this out. But my phone number. And what message do we want this text message to contain? So first, let's have a header for this text message. We'll go heating and plumbing lead. All right. So the information we want to receive as the business would be the caller's number they're initially calling from number. Okay. And then for here, what we'd want to do is now go in and attach that specific input here from the end of call report. Should be here. Boom. Plugged in the from number. The next piece of information we'd like to receive in this text message is the customer's name. So we'll say name. And we don't actually have the name in the end of call report, so that's something that we will have to extract from the transcript. But we want the name, we want the preferred number, so preferred number that they provided on the call, as well as the address where the issue is occurring. And then lastly, the call reason. All right, so for these fields, they actually aren't included in the end of call report. So we're going to have to create an additional step to extract this information from the transcript. All right, and the transcript is provided in the call report. So I'll show you guys exactly how we do that next. So remember, these are the things that we want to extract from the end of call report. Name, preferred number, address, and call reason. So let's go ahead and do that. So to do that, I'm going to add another step here before it gets to the send text message step, because it needs to have all these bits of information to properly send out the text message. So we'll have to add an additional step before the open phone step. And this step will be for one. Let me double check something. When looking at what you'll receive via text, let's just make sure. So as far as the format, I actually do want to change the format of the number that we're receiving here for the from number. So I'm going to create that real quick. We're going to do format step. And in the step where we want it to do, we want it to format a number. The action, we want it to transform to a phone number. Format number. Input is going to be, we're going to go to the catch webhook, or the webhook message that was received, and we got the from number in there. Okay. And then input decimal mark, format. Hold on, sorry. Let me go back to that type numbers. We want to go phone number tags. Format by Zapier. Format currency, format phone number. That's what I was looking for. All right, so format phone number. It's the same input for the format. We're just going to go like this. National format. Phone number country code is United States. Validate phone number, we'll just say no. Okay, keep it simple, and we'll continue. All right, so we will go ahead and test this step. Now, the reason we're able to test this is because we have actually, and let's delete this here. The reason we're able to test this is because, again, we have that call records record that was sent to the webhook. So now we're moving on from that process. It's taking the information from that call records, the input in that unformatted number, and we're going to test the format that we just created here, the step 2 format, the number that we just created here, and we'll see what the output is. So perfect, it worked perfectly. The initial number we got was including like the +1 in front of it, and then it imported, it gave us the output of the format that we were looking for. So we'll go ahead and continue from here. So now that we have the format correctly for the initial from number, let's go ahead and collect the additional bits of information we'd like to receive in that text message. So to do that, we're going to have to analyze the transcript and extract those other bits of information that we want to be included in the text message. Again, full name, preferred number, address, and reason for the call. So to do that, we're going to go and add the step ChatGPT. Okay, we're going to do the conversation event. You need to log into your ChatGPT account to go on to the next step here, which is the action. And then for this action, we're going to include a user message. We're going to use the model 4o. GPT-4o. Leave memory key empty, image empty, user same. We'll just change the assistant name to AI. Leave everything else default. Now for the user message, this is again where we're going to dive in, or we're going to use our templates, our prompt templates for this. And I'll walk through how we're going to extract the bits of information we want to be sent in that text message, in that end of call text message. So the context. What we're going to add for context is transcript, call transcript. Okay. And we'll move on to examples. So this is going to be what we want this step to actually do. So we input the transcript as context, and the example is going to be an example of a transcript, and the output that we actually want this step to be guided by, or using the example to follow through when creating its own output. It sounds confusing, I know, but let's go ahead and go through it, and it will make a lot more sense. So for this input, we're actually going to just copy and paste the call log from Vapi that we just made. So we can actually do that by coming to here, and let's try and just, I'm trying to cheat here. So we're just going to go to the transcript here, copy it all, head over to the conversation in ChatGPT step, come back to here. For the input, we're going to input the example transcript. And again, if you want access to this template, you can go to the link in the description here to our school community, where you can access all of these all of these templates, I should say, for everything we're doing in this video. So the input transcript is seen as below, and from what we want to get extracted from this transcript as the output are the name. So based on this, the name and preferred number, address, call, reason. All right, so for the name, let's go ahead and go to this transcript and see where it collected my name. Lenny, just confirm Lenny, right? Yes, my name is Cowens. Yes, and my last name is Cowens. So for the name, we want to put Cowens, because that's what the wanted output would be for this example. For the preferred number, let's see what number I provided and it followed up with after it confirmed. Perfect. So we'll go ahead and do that as well. And you also want to put the number in the format you'd like to be the output. So it will actually, in these instructions, we're literally going to tell it, hey, use it what is seen in examples as your guide. Okay, do X, Y, and Z based off of the context. And you will see that. But it all, everything comes into play here. Format, capitalization, pretty much everything. So with the preferred number, we're going to do similar format to what we saw earlier. We'll do there. Address, copy this address that was provided as well. And again, in the format. And then call reason. I'm going to say Lenny called in because he was having an issue with his air conditioner. Oh, so we're just going to keep it simple as that. And now let's get to the instructions. And we're going to say, you are an expert script scraper. Using the provided context, please respond with the appropriate output based on examples. And then we can get in a little more detail as what each of these outputs necessarily is, but for our use case, we're going to keep it at that. Let's go ahead and test the results here. this here. So if we scroll down to the bottom, let's go ahead and check out the output. So history message, name, Lenny Cowan, preferred number, boom, address, call reason, Lenny called in because he was having an issue with his air conditioner, history, boom, boom. So this all looks good. This all looks good. So from here, we will navigate back to the open phone stage, and we will delete this. And since we actually included in that output the name, preferred number, address, and call reason titles, we will just go ahead and input for this field the reply for that step, which should include that output as formatted that we just went over. All right, so instead of having to individually find and analyze the transcript for each bit of those informations, we just did it all in one. For different use cases, you might want to individually, scrape each of those inputs. But for ours, we just did it all in one to simplify this automation. So this step is good to go. All right, and we will test it at the end to make sure it all functions properly. But now we want to move on to the next thing that we want this voice assistant system to do, which is update a call dashboard with the end of call report so the business can review the call. So let's go ahead and get into that. So that would be the second to last thing we want this voice assistant system to do. So we'll add a step right before sending that text message using open phone. And what we're going to do here is actually create a step for Google Sheets, because we're going to be using Google Sheets for this call dashboard. All right, so now that we have this step created, we're going to go ahead and pick the event type. And what we want this to do is update a row, create a new row in the worksheet. Create spreadsheet row. So we'll select that event. From here, you will have to log into your Google Sheets account. I have mine here. And then from there, we will go ahead and link the sheet we want to use for this voice system to update the row in. I'm going to select my drive. So I'm going to select my drive, and then from here, HVAC call dashboard. And I actually pre-created this, but we'll actually fill out and I'll walk through exactly what fields I included here and why. And then for the worksheet, we'll pick that sheet. And then with that worksheet, to make sure that these columns actually show up for you to be able to assign, it needs to be that initial column, that header row, I should say, needs to be row 1 in this Google Sheet. So take note of that, just food for thought. It won't show up, or it'll show error, no headers in this Google Sheet. And you will have to adjust that and make sure that row of headers is row 1, okay? So for the row headers in the Google Sheet for the call dashboard that we're creating for this use case, we're gonna have the first header be the date and time, the second, the from number, third, call info, fourth, call summary, transcript, call recording, okay? So date and time, we're gonna go ahead and go into the webhook to find the date and time message so that we can have this automatically populate here. It's all the way at the end, so it is this message timestamp. Now this format's funky, so I'm already gonna have to come back and format this date and time to something more readable for us. For the from number, we already have that formatted, so we'll go down there. For the call info, this is actually going to be the text message that's sent out via open phone, because we also want to be able to review what's being sent out via text message from this bot to make sure everything aligns with the call outcome. So what we're going to do here is go into the conversation and just have it auto-populate the reply for the conversation in ChatGPT step. For the call summary, this is actually also included in that end of call report from Vapi. So that's great. So we'll input that message summary, Transcript, we already know that is provided in the end of call report. So we'll go ahead and add that as well. And then lastly, call recording, also in the webhook, or in the messages sent in the webhook. So the link to the end of call recording, stereo recording, message recording URL, then we'll do that. So now all we need to do is format the date and time here, and then we should be good to go. We'll go ahead and be able to test this step and really see everything kind of really form and come together here. So I'm going to add one more additional step before the Google Sheet, and it's going to be another formatting step to format the date and time. Oh, that's the wrong one. Didn't mean to do a filter. Let's go format. Event type, date time format, transform into just format, input, timestamp, to format. We're gonna go here. Okay. And then time zone UTC from, you're gonna adjust the time zones. We're gonna just keep a default for this use case, but you know, yeah, we'll just keep a default for this use case, but you can actually put the specific time zones you want the date and time to be referenced off of. But for now, we'll just continue here. For the test, we will go ahead and test what occurs in this Google Sheet. Now, let me go ahead and actually pop open this Google Sheet so we can review what was added. Oh, I'm so sorry. For this test, we're just testing the output. I'm getting ahead of myself. So as for the output for the date and time, this is actually the proper output, May 21st, 2024. So this is great. So we know now this test works, this step works. So now we can go back to the Google Sheet, come back to the action tab, and update the date and time to the format step that we just created. That's perfect. So now everything is good to go as far as the call dashboard. We're going to want to test this, but to be able to see what we're testing here, let's go ahead and pop that dashboard open. All right, so now you guys see the HVAC call dashboard that I created in Google Sheets. Okay, and you now see the different headers that I put in the first row for the different columns that I want, for the different columns that will contain the information that we want to be updated in this call dashboard. So date, time, phone number, call info, call summary, transcript, and call recording. So let's go ahead and test this step. And see if it works. Okay. Wow, fantastic. All right, so as we see here, the formatting was a little interesting. That's just a formatting thing. Oh, sorry. So yeah, it worked great. Now the gray is just a formatting thing, so we'll just reset that and reset that for the rest of them as well. But it looked like everything came out as it was supposed to. Date is formatted properly. The phone number is formatted properly. The call info, yep, that matches up. The call summary, yep, that matches up, and we're just gonna minimize this here. The call transcript, as you guys can see, as well as the URL for this actual call recording, you'll all have access to in this call dashboard. So that step worked. This is where the business can review and actually, do accuracy and performance checks on the voice assistant, whether the call info is being reported properly via text, whether the call objective was achieved via the call summary and transcript, and just assess any other issues that might be happening with this voice assistant. As well as they also have access to the call recordings. So they can do all this through this call dashboard. Now, we have just finished creating this Zap. So now the last thing for us to do is to publish this and give our voice assistant a call to test the full entire system. All right. For this stage, we'll go ahead and skip the step because we know it works properly. And because we're going to test it anyway right now, so we'll be fine. All right, so now this Zap is published. Just called Untitled Zap, but I'll call it HVAC Receptionist. And then change it up and save. Perfect. So the last thing we need to do here is call up this voice assistant and just make sure that all the automations are happening as they should. On top of that, we will also check the call dashboard, and that's the best way for us to be able to review these things, because you guys will not actually be able to see the text message that I received from the follow-up from the voice assistant. But let's go ahead and call this thing and see this thing work in real time. All right, here we go.
Hello, my name is Katie. How can I help you today?
Yeah, Katie, I'm having an issue with my furnace. It's not working.
I'm sorry to hear that your furnace isn't working. Let's get this sorted out for you. Could I please have your first name to start with?
Sure, it's Zach Smith.
Thank you, Zach. Just to make sure I have it right, that's Zachsmith. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Great, thank you, Zach. Could I please have the best phone number to reach you at? I'll repeat it back to confirm.
Sure, 949-888-1111.
Thank you. Let me confirm that number, 949-888-1111. Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Lastly, could you please provide the address where the furnace issue is occurring? I'll repeat it back to confirm.
Sure, 222 East Vale Avenue, Tustin, California, 11111.
Thank you. Let me confirm that address. 222 East Vale Avenue, Tustin, California, 11111. Is that correct?
Yes, that was correct.
Thank you, Zach. Our team will follow up shortly with an estimated time of arrival. Is there anything else you need assistance with today?
No, that'll be it. Thanks.
You're welcome, Zach. I'm glad I could assist. Our team will be in touch soon.
All right, so that call just ended. The end of call report should have been sent out. And we will go ahead and see if our document was updated. So we need to refresh the screen. Oh, we don't even need to refresh the screen. Perfect. It worked, y'all. Date and time formatted correctly. From number formatted correctly. Call info. Oh, I'm sorry. Down here. Date and time formatted correctly. Phone number formatted correctly. Call info. Zach Smith. Perfect. Preferred number. Perfect. Address. Perfect. Call reason. Perfect. And do notice that it's blurred out, but the call from number is different from the preferred number. All right, so it does have that ability to do so, and it did perfectly on both. All right, for the call summary, it received that, received the transcript, and the link to the call recording. So our Zapier automation is working properly. And that's a successful build, y'all. Now that we've tested the voice assistant system and it works properly, let's move on to a performance test. In this performance test, we're going to be testing this voice assistant using GPT-4o, and we're going to compare it to a voice assistant without GPT-4o. The two ways in which we're going to be comparing these voice assistants are 1, latency, and 2, overall performance. We're going to start with the before GPT-4o voice assistant and see how that performs. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Hello, my name is Katie. How can I help you today?
Yeah, I'm having some issues with my air conditioning. I was hoping someone could come out here and take a look at it for me.
Absolutely, I can help you with that. Can you please provide me some more details regarding the issue you are facing with your air conditioning?
Yeah, it's just not turning on.
I'm sorry to hear that. Our team can definitely help. Can I start by getting your first name, please?
Sure, it's Lenny Cowens.
Thank you, Lenny. And to clarify, your first name is spelled Lenny and your last name is spelled Cowens. Is that correct?
It's Cowans.
I apologize for the misunderstanding, Lenny. Thank you for the correction. So that's Lenny with Lenny and Cowens with Cowns. Is that correct?
No, it's Cowans.
I apologize for the misunderstanding, Lenny. So your last name is spelled Cowans. Is that correct?
No, that's incorrect. Just move on to the next piece of information you need to collect from me.
I apologize for the confusion, Mr. Cowens. Let's move forward. Can I have your preferred phone number, please?
Sure, it's 949-666-1562.
Thank you. I have your number as 949-666-1562. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great, thank you for confirming. Could you please provide me with the address where the air conditioning issue is occurring?
Sure, 123 North Prospect Lane, Tustin, California, 81820.
Thank you. To confirm, the address is 123 North Prospect Lane, Tustin, California, 81820. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Great. Thank you for confirming, Mr. Cowens. Your information has been recorded, and our team will follow up shortly with an estimated time of arrival for the service. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
Nope, that's it. Thanks. All right, so now let's go ahead and try the voice assistant with GPT-4o.
Hello, my name is Katie. How can I help you today?
Hey, Katie, I'm having some issues with my air conditioner. It won't turn on.
I'm sorry to hear that you're having trouble with your air conditioner. Let's get some more details so we can help you out. First, can I have your first name, please?
Sure, it's Lenny Cowens.
Thank you, Lenny. Let me make sure I have that correct. Is it Lenny Cowens? That's Lennycowens.
Cowans.
Got it, Lenny Cowens. That's Lennycowans. Thank you for confirming. Now, could I please have your preferred phone number to be called back?
Sure, it's 949-812-3511.
Thank you, Lenny. Let me confirm that number. 949-812-3511. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Lastly, can I have the address where the issue is occurring?
Sure, it's 001 North Prospect Lane, Tustin, California, 92811.
Thank you, Lenny. Let me confirm your address. It's 001 North Cross Lane, Tustin, California, 92811. Is that correct?
It's Prospect Lane.
Got it. So it's 001 North Prospect Lane, Tustin, California, 92811. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you, Lenny. Our team will follow up shortly with an estimated time of arrival. Is there anything else you need help with today?
No, that'll be it, Katie. I appreciate it. All right, so we just went through the before GPT-4o voice assistant and the after GPT-4o voice assistant. A couple takeaways. So with the before GPT-4o, the one thing that I noticed is initially when I told it my call reason, it had to, reaffirm it. It didn't lock in it immediately. And then also when I was trying to accurately give it the way to spell my first and last name, it was having issues and ultimately couldn't resolve that problem. Overall, there were some issues in collecting information, which has really been the Achilles heel for these voice assistants. In the after GPT-4o call, the first thing I noticed is it immediately got my call reason. The second thing that happened was it did initially mess up on the spelling of my last name, but it easily and quickly adjusted that and made that correction. Moving on, it also did have an issue with the address that I provided. I did say it a little fast and stumbled a little bit on some of the words, but when I did make the correction, it easily corrected that, and then had a smooth the rest of that call. Overall, as far as latency goes, in that first before GPT-4o, you could tell there was a little bit of additional latency with some of those replies, and it really sticks out as something that's not human. In the after 4.0 or after 4.0, when it came to the latency, it was a lot quicker responding, and a lot of those responses can actually be tweaked and improved with prompt engineering. In addition to that, if you select a different voice, there's some improvements to be had there. But overall, I would say before 4.0 versus after 4.0, the after 4.0 really bridges a lot of gaps that were big issues when it came to these voice assistants. In the main one being information collection. This one, if you prompt engineer it properly, it has the ability to not only collect names, addresses, phone numbers, but emails, which is one of the things that it really struggled with before 4.0. So overall, 4.0 is a game changer when it comes to these voice assistants, and it's the reason why we're able to build the voice assistant we built in this video that kills voicemail. Well, that's it for this video where we built the lowest latency, highest performing voice assistant that kills voicemail. If you found this video valuable, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to see more content like this about voice AI or just AI in general, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Other than that, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.